Hey everybody, how's it going? Originally, I wasn't going to put this piece on this channel, this video that I did when we visited the Auschwitz exhibit at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. It's really powerful and moving, and I was just going to put it on Motopoet 59, but I'm going to put it on both because I think it's important. You're going to hear some of my views. Don't make any apologies for being a conservative. But I don't expect everybody to agree with me where that's concerned. But this thing isn't political. This thing isn't about politics. It's about humanity, and I think it's important, and that's why I want to share it. I'm not going to monetize this. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. You're going to comment on it, fine, but I won't engage anyone in debate because this is something I refuse to debate about. This is one of those things where something's right or it's wrong. It's good or it's evil. And there's no in between. There's no gray area where this is concerned. So anyway, the reason I'm forwarding it with this is that when you'll see when I do the intro video that I'm all bubbly when we first got there, because I love visiting the Reagan Library. They always have cool stuff there. But it almost didn't fit this video. But anyway, here we go. Hey everybody, how's it going? We are here at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Our friend, where'd Dina go? There she is. Our friend Dina is with us. Chrissy is already vamoosed. She doesn't want to be on here. But we're going to come here today. We're going to check out, they have an Auschwitz exhibit going on. Got our tickets for that a couple months ago. So we are going to go check that out. And the rest of the library too. So let's go see what's happening. It happened, therefore it can happen again. This is the core of what we have to say. It can happen, and it can happen everywhere and anywhere. And if you think for 1 second that this can't happen anywhere ever again, you're mistaken. This is what happens when people don't stand up to leadership and government. It is up to the people to decide whether or not this happens to them, not the government. Stop giving in to the government. These are actual posts and insulators. All of this was from the camp at Auschwitz. This was the electrified portion of their perimeter. One of the things that I think gets lost in the history of not just Auschwitz, but a lot of the crimes against humanity that happened in World War II over there. But Auschwitz was liberated by the Russian army, not by the American army. And it is said that you saw in that back there that these Russian soldiers were sickened by what they saw. Incredibly enough, coming from the world of Stalin and Lenin, where so many people in the Soviet Union were murdered and imprisoned just like this. Ironic. The art of all truly great national leaders at all times consists in not dividing the attention of a people, but concentrating it upon a single foe. Sound familiar? The uniform of the Jews in concentration camps. If you've never seen the film Boy in the Striped Pajamas, you should watch it. First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. And they came for the Social Democrats, and I did not speak out because I was not a Social Democrat. And they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Think about that. Think about that. Next time you think something a government is doing is okay because it doesn't affect you directly, it's time to stop being selfish and self-centered when it comes to the world around you. and start looking at the bigger picture. Well, this will happen again. One of the threads through this whole thing that I've noticed so far is how some of the Jewish people, and there's an interview with a Holocaust survivor named Hannah Arendt. I'd seen that before. She spoke about how they weren't, it wasn't the treatment by their enemies that ruined them. It was how they were treated by who they considered to be their friends. And that is an overriding problem in today's society, from people who tell on their neighbors for having their fireplaces lit, people who during COVID did what they did, telling on people and reporting people for not doing this and not doing that. Those are the things we need to watch for. That's where this stuff starts. Oh, yeah, well, that's what a lot of the Jews thought. In Hannah Arendt's interview, she spoke about how the Jews weren't shocked or surprised by Hitler's rise to power. They didn't think it was personal. They thought it was just political, and they found out different later on. So remember that. Keep that in mind. This is the desk of Rudolf Hess. It's weird to look at just what appears to be a piece of furniture and realize the evil and the horror that was thought up and carried out by the plans made at this desk. One man, it's how easy it is, just decides the fate of millions of people. It's terrible. There's another uniform of the Jews in concentration camps, and this one talks about all the jobs that they did when they were forced into slave labor. And I go back to the film The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, where the young German officer's son didn't even realize that this child was different than him. If you haven't seen that movie, you really should watch it. One of the other things that gets lost, we talked about the Russians, the Soviet army liberating Auschwitz and many of the other camps. It was the treatment of the Soviet prisoners of war after the invasion of the Soviet Union by the Nazis. And the Soviets, they didn't look at the Soviets any differently than they looked at the Jews or the Gypsies, who they called the Roma. They didn't look at them any different. They were all thought of as subhuman and were treated in equally despicable ways. So it wasn't just the Jews, but the Soviet POWs who also suffered at the hands of the Germans in these camps. Something else about Auschwitz was that it was originally designed to house Soviet prisoners of war, and it was designed to hold up to 250,000. I didn't realize that number. I knew that it was built as a prisoner of war camp originally, but the number surprised me. But no more than 20,000 Soviet prisoners of war ever arrived at Auschwitz, and most of them had already been murdered by the time they developed the final solution and decided instead that it would be used to house Jews and to figure out a way to annihilate all of them. Walking through here and seeing all this stuff, and see right here, that is luggage recovered from Auschwitz. Once belonged to people who were alive. Don't know if who survived and who didn't. It doesn't say. It doesn't matter. Photographs of all the people who herded into these trains and then into these camps. Over here it has a couple of quotes by people who were taken to Auschwitz, and that they didn't even know what was going on, and that these people just looked like regular policemen doing their jobs. They didn't have the look of evil people. And today when I hear groups of people, especially in the United States, who are so spoiled and have it so good no matter who they are or what group they are associated with, who feel that they're put upon or oppressed or enslaved in some manner, it makes me want to throw up. It really does. Because none of them have anything to complain about like the Jews do. None of them have ever been treated that badly, especially in the United States in the last 150 years. It's disgusting when I hear people compare themselves to this. People today have no clue what being treated badly is. They're not victims. They're volunteers. These people were victims. It's important to remember that the Holocaust was not just about adults, it was about children. According to this literature here, which I knew the children were involved, but of the 1.1 million Jews deported to Auschwitz, only 200,000 were admitted as registered prisoners. The other 900,000 were murdered shortly after their arrival. 200,000 of these were children. It also says that they, if they were with their parents or sisters or whoever their caregivers were, rather than causing a disturbance, like you do see in some films and stuff about this, that they didn't do that. They just sent the caregivers to the gas chambers with the children, and almost all children were immediately condemned to death along with their caretakers. A layout of Auschwitz. This is a drawing by a French Jew artist named David Olaire, who evidently did multiple drawings of, he was actually a interned at Auschwitz and was forced to clean out the gas chambers after the people were dead and burn the bodies. And this is one of the drawings he made. I can't imagine having to live with that. I just can't imagine it. This is another drawing by David Olaire about how the crematorium were designed. Another piece of work by David Olaire, and I guess I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't know. Sorry if I'm not, but that's a pretty powerful painting right here. The clothing and the body, the child burning. The crematorium in the background, Nazi overseer, and the words, "Work sets you free." Shoe and sock of a child. Man. Just the humanity of that and the inhumanity of those who did this is just inconceivable by today's whining, complaining people who think that they have it bad because they don't earn enough at McDonald's. Or somebody doesn't agree with them. More drawings by David O'Leary depicting the job of taking the dead out of the gas chambers and moving into the crematorium. These are some of the possessions of some of the people in the camp. Combs, buttons, shoes, keys, medicine bottles. All these people who arrived at these camps were completely stripped of their identity and everything they'd ever been. And for many of them, everything they'd ever be. Brushes, mirrors, can openers, things that, shaving brushes, things we take for granted, things that we lose and don't think anything about, or break and don't think anything about, but it was the last thing that so many people had. I'm not going to read this, but see if I can get it where I can get all of it. Pause that and read that. That is what little the Nazi regime thought of other people. Well, I didn't record anything in the last little bit of the exhibit because I don't think anything else in there could press the enormity of what was in there. As I've said 100 times. It's an emotional thing to see that humans could treat other humans that way. It's terrible. It's terrible. Don't ever let it happen again. One of the things I noticed in there is how subdued it was, how quiet, solemn. I've been here, as I said, I've been here 5 times. 4 of the other times were also, 3 of the other times visiting exhibits. One about cars, the Da Vinci, and I can't remember what the other one was. I love this place, but it's always people talking and pointing and discussing what's going on, and this wasn't like that. You heard in there I was whispering, trying to maintain the honor and respect and solemnness of what was going on there and what was on exhibit there. It was very powerful. I know that this kind of thing isn't for everyone, but everyone should see it nonetheless. We can't let this kind of thing happen again. It's unlikely that I'll ever go to Europe, and I've never been, so I will probably never go see the actual places. This is as close as I'm probably ever going to get, and it's moving. And as I've said already, and many other times in my life, if something like this doesn't move you, you got something wrong with you. You're wired wrong. There are people who still deny the Holocaust happened. Those people have never seen stuff like this. The artifacts, the individuality and humanity that was completely stripped from these people on their arrival at these places, and very few of them lived to regain that individuality and that humanity and those pieces of their lives. And it's good that some of them survived, but it's just a catastrophe that the Holocaust ever happened. And what's scary is it could easily happen again. We need to tend to the bigger picture and stop concerning ourselves with what our neighbor is doing. It's their business. They want to do this, that, or the other. That's their business. And I'm not talking about engaging in criminal acts, but when the government gets to decide that your everyday life is a criminal act, who knows where it stops? It stops at places like this, or it leads to places like this. It doesn't stop. That's the tragedy. I don't know. I'm rambling. It's very powerful. If you've never been to the Reagan library, you should come visit it, even if nothing's on exhibit. Pull up the website, see what's on exhibit, and if this stuff, like I said, if this is something that you would like to see, it's going to be on display here until August 13th, 2023. All right. Keep shooting me the ideas. Drop in the comments below. Shoot me an email at motorpoet59@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content, and we'll see you all later.